Hey gang, this is JC, and this is your Daily Dose for Monday, August 30th, 2010. A cooperative venture with Mind Active in beautiful downtown Brentwood. You can get us on your mobile phone right now. You don't need any apps or anything like that. Just go to jc'sdailydose.com. We'll take care of it for you. We got archives at the top of the page. Dave Murray's weather forecast in the corner. The audio is on iTunes, and we roll on with our 15-month paid vacation. Paris Hilton's lawyer has asked that the public not judge her based on her cocaine bust over the weekend. Instead, he said you should judge her on her DUIs, her sex tape, and the absence of any discernible talent. No matter what a stripper may tell you, guys, a new study says only 1 in 5 of these women is dancing to put herself through college. Annual income, $34,000 to $74,000. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Emmys. The opening segment I thought was absolutely sensational, the way they did it. You know, I'm not the biggest Jimmy Fallon fan. I thought it was funny on Saturday Night Live. I'm not sure about the show that he's doing right now, and I wasn't sure when they announced him as the host, but I thought he did great last night, and that opening production number was fantastic. It was funny, too. Sofia Vergara, oh man, not only great to look at, what a rack on this babe, but she's got a great sense of humor about it too, and really played into it last night. I thought that was cool. Is there anybody cooler on the planet than George Clooney? And for the gay population, is there anybody cooler on the planet than Neil Patrick Harris, who is funny and handsome and cool? And if I swung that way, I'd be on him like a cheap suit. What else we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4. The Oprah promos during the show were pretty odd, and if you still have the show on your DVR from last night, go back and look. They only showed the skinny Oprah. There's no fat Oprah shots in the Oprah promos. The narration, while the people were making their way from their seats up to the front of the stage to do their acceptance speech, it's not that the jokes weren't funny, it's just I'm not sure it worked all the time, and the audio was buried. So they got a couple of kinks to work out. But not a bad show last night for the Emmys. All right. At work today, take a look around. Specifically, take a look at 7 of your female co-workers, because statistically, one of them has done the boss. A new study from the Center for Work-Life Policy says, of those 1 in 7 women in the workplace who has done the boss, 37% say they got promoted. The downside, 60% of the men and 65% of the women say they would instantly lose respect for a boss who is boinking a co-worker. That would also have to suggest that they had any respect for him to begin with. Cards are 5 and back of Cincinnati. Don't look now, but assuming that the Cardinals don't stink up the place in Houston and don't lose even more ground on the Reds, Cardinals basically have to sweep Cincinnati over this upcoming Labor Day weekend. Or basically, folks, it's not all over, but the fat lady starts going, me, 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 me. Jennifer Aniston reportedly will go topless in the new Judd Apatow movie, Wanderlust. Paul Rudd will be on the receiving end of that. Now, technically, she has been topless in other movies, but she's been sort of teasing us. That thing that she did a couple of years ago where she was topless but you didn't see anything, but there was a photographer on the set who shot from the opposite side, and the pictures ended up on the internet, at least one picture, where you actually finally got an unobstructed look at Jennifer Aniston's breasts. Almost nobody has seen that, by the way, because the pictures have been pulled down. I still have them, and maybe someday I will be a good guy and treat you to those. Travel and Leisure magazine ranks Lambert Airport as the 3rd worst airport in America. No shit. Thanks for the update. We're behind LaGuardia and LAX. All right, Triple C and I took a couple days off. That's why we didn't have fresh daily doses for you Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday last week. We made our first ever trip to the Napa Valley, just northeast of San Francisco in Central California. In and around Napa, and we had a great time. This is a great trip. If you've not Triple C and I started talking about taking this trip on our first date 5 years ago. We finally got around to it last week. We had a great time. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights here. And these aren't necessarily stops that you would want to make. I'm just telling you, we had reasons for making these stops, and we had some of these recommended to us. Let's start with Chateau Montelena. All right, if you have not seen the movie Bottle Shock, and you are even a casual connoisseur of wine, you need to get your ass to the video store and rent the movie Bottle Shock. Great movie with Bill Pullman, Chris Pine, who played Spock in this latest Star Trek thing, Dennis Farina, who was in Get Shorty and lots of other good movies, and also the great Alan Rickman, who I don't think has ever given a bad performance. This was a movie about, I was blissfully unaware of the fact that until the mid-1970s, the California wine industry had not really taken off and that it wasn't really taken seriously. And in 1973, a Chardonnay from this outfit called Chateau Montelena won the 1976 International Championship for their Chardonnay, and the movie is about that. And it's a wonderful movie, by the way. Again, it's called Bottle Shock. I don't know what happened. This movie came out a couple of years ago. I didn't even know about it. It popped up on cable a couple of, maybe, I don't know, a year or so ago. And I've now seen it like 3 or 4 times. It's a wonderful movie, Bottle Shock. Anyhow, Chateau Montelena, and a beautiful facility there. Our next stop was the Schramsberg place. Our tour guide by the name of Ron was absolutely fantastic. 2 cabs there were just fantastic, but they specialize in sparkling wine. And again, I was completely unaware of how much work goes into just making a bottle of sparkling wine and how it's turned upside down and they have to freeze it to get the yeast out, and the guy's got to come along and turn the bottles. This is a tour you absolutely must take. Absolutely. You go into these caves that were built in the 1800s by Japanese laborers, and it's just remarkable. You absolutely must take the tour at Schramsberg and ask for Ron to be your tour guide, because it was fantastic. Next up, Castello de Amoroso. We had a replica castle that we got a chance to see. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute, by the way. Our tour guide by the name of Mary, and by the way, this was a replica of a place back in France, and right down to the torture chambers and the dungeons and everything like that. That's pretty cool. Next up was Chapelet, and that's up in the foothills. The scenery in Napa is just beautiful, by the way. Got to try the Cabernet Franc, absolutely sensational. Then we went to the Del Dado winery. And when I saw this sign, I was like, Del Dado? I know that name from somewhere. There was a guy, gosh, in the late 80s, one of the very first infomercials, back, when you were sitting there going, well, what's this? It looks like a TV show, but they're selling something. One of the very first infomercials was done by a guy by the name of Dave Del Dado. One of those, you can buy all this real estate for no money down, guys. And I'm not sure how many people made any money off of that, but I know Dave did, because he's got an awesome winery. They actually call this Dave Del Blotto around there, because what you do is you go in there and they do barrel tastings. So they give you a glass and you go into these catacombs, and this guy's got a thing called I think it's called a stealer. It's like a turkey baster, and he sucks the wine right out and then squirts it into your glass. And I'm going to tell you, we had a lot of wine, and I mean a lot of wine, on Friday afternoon. Oh, geez, I don't even know anymore. But in the late 80s, one of the very first infomercials, and this guy made all that money. But the barrel tastings at the Del Dado winery are sensational. Then we went to Domaine Carneros. Our tour guide by the name of Jean-Claude was absolutely fantastic. And again, they have a Pinot Noir there that will knock you on your butt. And this was also a very interesting, in terms of the production of the sparkling wine. You get a really good look at the machines and how they work and stuff like that. And then one of the more organic ones, and one of the guys I will remember for the rest of my life, a fellow by the name of George at the Hendry Winery, H-E-N-D-R-Y. And this was a guy in his middle 70s who had great stories to tell about what it was like getting these wineries going in the 1930s and 40s, and he was sensational. And in a couple of these tours, they take you out into the wine, right up to the grapes. You can pull the grapes right off the vine, and sort of explains what's going on with the skins and everything. It's just absolutely sensational. So in and around Napa. Now you got to eat while you're there, and we really liked Gott's Roadside Inn, G-O-T-T, Gott's Roadside Inn. You have to have the seared ahi burger. And it's a little place that looks like Ted Drew's. It looks like a bigger Ted Drew's. So again, Gott's Roadside, the Rutherford Grill. Oh my God. Just a fantastic tomato heirloom salad, and just great stuff, and good wine list and everything like that. We also went to a place called Auberge du Soleil. I'm probably butchering that. But that's basically your Ritz-Carlton, that's your Four Seasons, that's your You're Not Going, because our bill was over $500 for the two of us. And then finally, Mustard's. We had a great lunch on Saturday at Mustard. So all in all, just a fantastic. Hello there, Max. Everything's fine, Max. In and around Napa, we just had a great time. It's a tour that you have to take, and you might want to save this version of the Daily Dose because you might want to refer back to it. Also, on the way back to the airport in Oakland, I saw Oakland for the first time. I've been to San Francisco a couple of times, but Oakland, what a pit, by the way. And, you know, the Rams play their second regular season game there at the Oakland Alameda Coliseum. What a dump this place is. And I'll tell you about our 40 minutes on a hot plane with a baby behind us. Maybe when we get around to that, maybe later on in the week. All right, JC's Eye Candy, in conjunction with all of this, 9 photographs from our trip to the Napa Valley. You can check that out. I got a couple of things to say here. Don't go away, because this sounds like the end, but it's not. JC's Video Village, back in October of 1986, Channel 5 sent me to spend a week behind the scenes with Pat and Vanna and the gang of Wheel of Fortune. It was a 5-part series, and we put together the first 3 parts of that 5-part series, and that's your Video Village for today. You know, back then, 42 million people a day were watching Wheel of Fortune. The Wayback Machine, back in the middle 1980s, KSDK paired up Art Holiday with Jennifer Blome, and they've been on the air now on Today in St. Louis for, you know, a quarter of a century. But before that, Art Holiday was a sportscaster, so we have one of his sportscasts from a 5 o'clock show on KSDK TV from 1986. The man has made a deal with the devil. He has not aged at all. What are you doing, Art? How are you pulling that off? Tomorrow, by the way, we have Celebrity Tuesday. We're going to talk about Steve Martin. I read his book on this trip, and we'll have a lot to talk about Steve Martin. And finally, I want to talk about a guy by the name of Greg Goodrich. Greg Goodrich met his the love of his life back in Detroit in high school in the 1970s. He followed her here to St. Louis in the early 1980s when she got a job here, and they got married shortly thereafter. Great restaurateur, opened up the Glendale Grill on Manchester, and I went to the grand opening of that, I still remember. And then he got into the whole food service thing, and you know those fancy clubs at the Savas Center, like during the hockey games and stuff like that? Well, Greg Goodrich was running all of that stuff, all those fancy clubs at the Savas Center. Now, I hadn't seen Greg in, a couple of years at least, like 7 or 8, I guess. And about 3 months ago, I just stumbled into him at our Schnucks. And it's not even the Schnucks that he normally goes to. But I was like, what are you doing here? And we sort of had a nice talk. And by the way, Greg, tall, handsome, full head of hair, big smile, great handshake. You know, better than any 50-year-old man should look. We had a nice talk for about 20 minutes and got all caught up. And I just remember thinking to myself, I came home and I told Triple C, it's just no miracle, no surprise at all that this guy, Greg Goodrich, landed someone as sweet as Deanne Lane, one of my favorite people here in St. Louis. Greg, by the way, teenage son Griffin, and just really laid it on thick with the baseball and everything that he knew, and Griff is doing great in baseball. I mention all of this because last Wednesday, Greg just went. Like that. No warning, no nothing, at age 50. I continue to watch the bastards of the world get away with murder and just sort of come and go, and nothing ever seems to happen to them. And yet, I watch nice people, really nice people like Deanne Lane, have to deal with things like this, and I just don't get it. Deanne and Griff, from all of your friends, our hearts are broken. See you guys tomorrow.